What is up, boys? Alright, this is my Golem 11 team on my second account. Got Sol Badguy, 6-star, level 55. I used 4 copies to do the memory imprint, and I used an extra Phantasma. I'm gonna keep an extra Sol Badguy on the side. You should not do it. It's like someone pointed out in the comment section. Don't do the same that I'm gonna do. It's just because I want to really test out Sol Badguy in PvE and in PvP. So the one that has a memory imprint, the double S memory imprint, will be for PvP, and for PvE I'll have an extra copy. I'll leave it as at 5-star, and for PvP I want to build him more tanky and try some things out, maybe with more effectiveness and things like that. But here we go. In this video I have Ken in front and not Achates, because the memory imprint of Sol Badguy is for the front position and the top position. So Ken, extra survival there, and Haste does need the extra survival. On some runs he actually ends up dying, as well as Sol when he was only a 5-star. So hopefully this level, this 6-star and the leveling will allow him to be more consistent and live longer. So attack down debuff is a big deal here. It cuts the attack in half. I mean, it always does cut the attack of the target in half. But for the Golem, when you have defense down on you and he doesn't have attack down debuff, he has attack buff, all that together makes up for some crazy damage that your team can receive. This stage 11 is much harder because you've got this this tree here, the Silva, the fitted Silva, that is healing the boss but also removing debuffs. So even though you might be dropping like attack down debuff, that ad is removing all the debuffs. Let's say you are trying to do it with Kiris. She applies poison, deals 5% of the target's health and damage, which I was heavily relying on in the early game. I was using Kiris for farming stage 8 very early on, and then stage 9 for a while, and then stage 10. But in 11, the tree just takes the debuff away, which is really unfortunate. And also, since she is Earth, she does take extra damage. So yeah, Sol Badguy decimated the boss on that one. Let's do another one and see what happens. I mean, that was ridiculous, but it does happen often. Sol Badguy is on Daydream Joker and Haste as well. Ken is on Durandal, and Achates is on might appear when I go in the game here. Nope, maybe during the battle. It's a staff that increased the amount of healing. Shimaja's staff, yep. So that's the one she's carrying. You don't need these artifacts and all that, but I mean, Daydream Joker is definitely super helpful because it deals damage based on the target's max health. So you just want to have 100% crit chance. If you're at elemental advantage, so fire versus earth, you only need 85% crit chance. So you get 85% crit chance as fire, you get as much crit damage as possible, you get as much speed as possible, and you will do a lot of damage with Daydream Joker. You don't need to get a bunch of speed for Golem, because after hitting the Golem a few times, he counter attacks. So it can be very deadly if he goes, lands defense down debuff on your team, and then you attack him a few times, he triggers a counter attack. That's a lot of spike damage all at once, so you have to be careful. You might want your support heroes with more speed and your damage dealers with a lower amount of speed. Focus on survival stats if you are struggling with the survival aspect in Golem. If you don't have Achates, if you want to run any other healer, I would highly recommend that you do not run an ice healer. That is a pretty kamikaze. Increased damage suffered from fire elemental heroes by 30%, while increasing damage dealt to non-fire elemental heroes by 30%. So you already have that 30% damage increase as fire, which is huge, and it makes it so it's much easier to gear for. And yeah, if you're any other element, you're taking 30% more damage, which is insane. When attacking, if the target is an ice elemental hero, stuns them for 1 turn. So even though you might be able to run it with, let's say, Angelica, she has a lot of healing output. If you're, let's say, lucky enough to have immunity up while the golem is attacking. The thing is, the golem is always attacking, counter-attacking, so you can't have immunity up the whole time. And if you can do that content, that means you are over-gearing it. So here, haste is already gone. Damage is like, my team is pretty low on health. The boss just got healed up, lost all debuffs, so it's really dangerous. I would say that if you're able to get heroes which can apply debuffs like attack down debuff and defense down, it's better to double up, especially on the attack down debuff. That is a huge deal, because yeah, if the tree goes, it will remove that debuff and you will take full damage again. So really, like, having, well, in this particular case, my team has Achates that can land it with skill 1 and Ken that can land it as well. Let me show you my gear. I have haste that kind of is a backup healer. Did I even show the damage on that? Hope I did. Alright, I'll show the gear here. Maybe I'll finish with another run. So skill ups. Since this second account that I have, I mostly just focus on enhancing heroes that I will use for a long time. I don't focus too much on 3-star heroes, but like a 4-star hero like Achates, because this was the goal of the account. I wanted to start farming Golem ASAP, and I wanted to just farm Golem for a really long time. So I started my selective summon with Achates and Kiris, and I can say that even now that is a very solid choice. But since the introduction of stage 11, which was not in the game yet when I did that, I would say that Wyvern 11 is much easier to gear for, because you always have your frontal hero that takes the damage first. So yeah, you can just slap a bunch of survival gear on that knight, and it's much easier to sustain, keep that hero alive. Then Golem is pretty dangerous. You can get some bad luck, and if your debuffs don't land, your attack down doesn't land, you're gonna take a huge amount of damage. If your hero just use their skill to remove debuffs and you get hit with defense down and you get countered attack, it's gonna hit for too much. So skill ups, yeah, I showed haste. Sol has nothing. Ken, working on him. Achates, I mean, I started using her very early on with Kiris, so yeah, Kiris is like, I went pretty heavy on the skill enhancing. I don't use her in this video, but just to show you guys, and I even went with the effect chance on that. I mean, Kiris can definitely be used for Abyss as well. Now there's a lot of bosses which are immune to poison. I mean, in the raid, they're pretty much all immune to poison, and in the Abyss now they have floors where they're immune to poison, they're immune to damage that affects their that scales based on target's max health, or they just straight up like instantly removes them, or they become stronger or something, they're immune, or there's new mechanics they're introducing in the game to like counter heroes that can you can cheese some of the content with. So back to the team. So that was, yeah, I don't run Mascot Hazel because Achates is enough, and also Haste provides, so attack down debuff here. 2 turn is also very good, and this kill is so strong because it removes debuffs and then it heals afterward. I mean, defense down debuff on this, he can burn deals 60% of the targets, I mean 60% of the hero's attack and damage, and bypasses 70% of the target's defense. Super strong. This increases his own speed, decrease defense, and if caster is granted vigor, ignores effect resistance. That's crazy. And vigor is granted here. Wait, no. Vigor is granted on skill 3. I thought there was another mechanic to gain vigor, but maybe not. So all the damage scales with the caster's max health. So I mean, this is just amazing. You can make him, he's such an amazing bruiser. You can stack a bunch of health, get some crit damage on him, and he will deal a ton of damage, and then you add some crit damage later on. And I mean, his crit chance is not where I want him to be. His speed is not where I want it to be, but he's got the effectiveness. 55% effectiveness is what you should aim for in PvE content. You need to counter the effect resistance of the target. You press on their portrait, you hold your hold press on it, and you will see their effect resistance. You remove 15% out of that number, and this leaves you with how much effectiveness you want. The 15% cannot be countered. There's always 15%. That's the way it works in this game. So yeah. Now for the gear. I mean, this is hard to obtain. This team is just, I'm showcasing my team, and I'm talking about why I'm using these heroes. Yeah, just quickly, Haste. Bleed deals 30% of the hero's attack in damage and bypasses 70% of the target's defense. It is half the strength of burn. Vampiric Touch, it says here that absorbs some of the target's health when attacking, and also this applies unhealable, so I don't need to bring Mascot Hazel, but also unhealable is it's fine. It's just gonna speed up your run basically. The small ad does remove the unhealable, but I believe that if it's applied on the target, he will heal first and then remove debuff, so you can avoid a heal, but then it gets removed, so you need to reapply it. And yeah, if the target is bleeding, there's increased recovery. I always wanted Haste. Haste, you cannot get him from selective summon in the game. You have to really like roll, like you have to summon for him. Just be super lucky and pull him. And this, well, deals 3 bleeding effects amongst the enemy for 2 turns. So if there's only one target, you might be able to land all 3 bleeding effects on one target, but in the case of Golem, like the bleed will be spread. And for the gear, so yeah, Daydream Joker, damage based on the target's max health, super helpful. And since I'm farming Golem, I have access to attack set, health set, and defense set. The drawback with going for Golem first instead of going for Wyvern, like I said, I made this account after before the stage 11 update, so my plan was just to farm stage 10, and that was it. So whoever carries Daydream Joker, 85% crit chance if fire versus earth at elemental advantage, or 100% crit chance if possible with as much crit damage as possible, and speed. Not too much speed if you're struggling with survival, but as fire you can go more offensively. You don't need as much stats as heroes of other elements, unless you could, well, no matter, like you always need more survival stats on the other elements. But if you can reliably drop attack down debuff on the target, it does considerably lower the survival stat requirement of your whole team. So the easiest thing to do when you're gearing out for Golem is to really go for 4 fire heroes. Make sure that you can remove debuffs. So yeah, remove defense down, because defense down reduces your defense by 70%. So this roughly doubles the damage you will be taking. That's how it works. So yeah, removing debuffs, having maybe immunity on you, and with the current heroes, really it's, yeah, Achates is, I would say, the top tier hero for this place. If you want to be able to clear it early on with as little gear as possible, and it's not too hard to actually get Achates, as she's a 4-star. And I would say that if you do have her and you are planning to farm Golem, the skill enhancement is definitely worth doing. I would say that get back on her. For building her, your priority is to yeah, get this to +3 for the -1 turn cooldown, and get that to +4 for the 50% chance. It's quite a big upgrade, so you definitely should do that. And you want her with a bunch of health, because her healing, it recovers proportional to the caster's max health. Healing increase proportional to the caster's max health. So yeah, and also you don't need, like, Ishimadra's staff, I'm just using that because that's what I have, and I was lucky enough to pull it. But you can definitely do really good with Prophetic Candlestick. And even very early on, you know what I was doing? I was running Achates with Kiris in the earlier stage, and my whole team had Prophetic Candlestick, because you've got the boss that's constantly counter-attacking you, so you are reducing your cooldowns quite often. And I was using Achates, Kiris, Jetch is super strong there too, and Mascot Hazel. Like, the only damage there was the poison from Kiris. That was a team composition that I was running very successfully. And I mean, my heroes were just 5 stars. They were just 5 stars, and I was doing like stage 9 super early on in the game with like very bad gear. It was just about landing attack down debuff. Actually, it doesn't get removed in stage 10 or below, because the tree heals but doesn't remove debuff, so it's so much easier. I just need a run where the attack down debuff sticks, and then Kiris just comes in and she uses that all the time, and it extends the duration of debuffs. So that is super powerful. And sometimes the problem with Kiris is that her AI, the artificial intelligence, the way they handle the skills is that sometimes there's just a few debuffs on the target, and they keep on doing preparation and to corrosive volley, instead of doing preparation and to venomous arrow, which applies 3 poison effects for 2 turns, which deals a ton of damage to the boss, and then you speed up your run by so much. You could like manual your runs if you want to farm like a stage higher than you can do on auto, and it will be very reliable. And you can pair that with the third guardian, which reduce your cooldowns by 2 turns, and you can just stack poisons like crazy. But yeah, you see she was carrying a Prophetic Candlestick. Jetched. Yeah, I changed his gear. Actually, Wondrous Potion Vial worked out really good. He's already removing, dispelling 1 debuff with this. And also Jetch, you can use him in Banshee, and he is a top tier healer in there. I mean, the continuous healing heals for I believe it's 15% of your health, and it actually scales with Shimadra's staff. Any source of healing scales with Shimadra's staff, be it lifesteal, be it like it could be the Vampiric Touch from Haste. It can be any source of healing, so continuous healing works as well. Some people weren't sure, but it's been tested and it does work. So any form of healing, very, very strong if you do have it. But yeah, early on it's all about poison and supporting that character to keep him alive, keeping your team alive with applying attack down debuff. So yeah, I mean, I thought that decreased hit chance worked, but from what I heard, the bosses in Wyvern cannot, the bosses in Hunt, they cannot miss their attack. So decreased hit chance usually has the target miss 50% of their attacks when they have that debuff, and miss means that they cannot land any debuff, they cannot land a critical hit, they cannot land a crushing hit. They just deal 70%, 75% of a normal hit in damage. But yeah, bosses in there cannot miss, which is really unfortunate. So yeah, I didn't know that at the time. So yeah, you've got decreased hit chance from Jetched, but still very, very strong, because yeah, the increased speed is not so useful, because you're just speeding up the fight, and the boss will just be counter-attacking at the same rate. Basically, you're just going more often than the boss with the big defense down attack that does a shockwave attack of so much damage. But Tailwind is quite powerful in there. If you can use some Wondrous Potion Vial, that works out as well. But very early on, like budget setup is really that prophetic candle still just does wonder. I would say that Achates is definitely top tier material when it comes to Golem. Not only she's fire all the way through, but like in stage 11, fire is a big deal. So if you had to go with lower requirement setups, like lower star heroes, I would say that Mascot Hazel is definitely top tier. Carmen Rose is very, very strong in there as well, because you've got attack and defense buff for herself, increases her survival, which is not, I mean, super high. She's got good defense, but her health is just, like, it's so bad. But she decreased speed, increase her own speed, and also, is it that one? Yeah, it dispels all buffs on the target. So if the golem has attack buff, defense buff, you're stripping that off. But if you're running Sol Badguy, like, you couldn't run Carmen Rose if you don't have Sol Badguy. If you see this video and you were not fortunate enough to get him, I mean, Sol Badguy is just on another level. This deals damage based on the target's max health. This deals damage based on the target's max health. On top of having Daydream Joker, that's so much damage against the golem. But unable to be buff debuff, this allows you, so like the golem will not be getting that attack buff, and it will not do as much damage against your team, because attack buff is an increase of 50% of the target's attack. So yeah, pair that with defense down on your team, he's gonna hit for so much damage. So what you need to worry about is cleaning that defense down, dropping attack down debuff on the golem, and removing his buffs. That is the most important. I would say the priority would be to remove defense down, because it doubles his damage output. And then the other priority would be to I would say attack down debuff, yeah, because that's cutting his attack in half. So it is actually easier to land attack down debuff on him, especially stage 10 and below, than reliably removing defense down debuff. That is quite hard of a feat, because your skill will be on cooldown, you might be unlucky, and you might have it on you, and a counter attack might be coming your way. So I would say attack down debuff is top priority, and then it will be, of course, if you can remove that defense down, and then it would be removing his buffs. If you can do all that and you have 4 heroes which are fire, it will be so much easier to gear for. Now, I mean, of course, there's so many heroes which are amazing for golem. Lidica can just basically, it will be later on, mid-late game, you will have some crazy speed on her. You can just kill the golem before it even gets one turn. But if we're talking about just 4 stars, you can go selective summon Achates. And I mean, Shuri speeds up your group, but you still have to deal with the counter attacks non-stop. I actually tried him on my first account. It's just like you keep on getting counter attacks, so a lot of damage is coming your way. I would say he's not top tier material. Cirilla does so much damage against the golem. You could have her and have a Daydream Joker artifact. It's gonna do really good for you. And also, she's got decrease attack for 2 turns. Now, I wish I showcased her more. I could do that later on. But yeah, I would say that Mascot Hazel, Sol Badguy, that's already 2 super powerful heroes for you. And if you can, if you're struggling with survival, Achates with Mascot Hazel can do really good. And you can have Wondrous Potion Vials on them. And yeah, I mean, that's my take on it. But focus on fire heroes is definitely the key to lower the gear requirement in Golem. And really, just go with what you got. But remember about the attack down debuff, the removal of decreased defense, and of course the removal of his buffs. And Sol Badguy takes care of dealing a ton of damage to the golem, but also removing the buffs off of him and applying unable to be buff debuff, which unfortunately gets removed by the tree. But in stage 10 and below, it will stick and it will make your life so much easier. So that's really cool that we were able to get Sol Badguy. For the memory imprint, do what I did actually, and because it only affects the top and front position, you should have your squishiest heroes. I mean, you can't have your squishy hero on the front line unless you can sustain their health for the first wave, but the golem always attacks the whole team, so you could have a fairly squishy hero on the front line. Your tankiest hero should be in the back and the bottom slots. You should triple S Sol Badguy if possible. I only went for double S because I'm keeping an extra copy for PV, like I said, if you skip, and I'm using the one with memory imprints for PvP. So I want 2 Sol Badguy because it's not gonna happen for probably a year, the event, another time. And I just want to test things out and show you guys, make some videos and all that. And he's so good, that's why. But it will be a high investment. Like for PvE, maybe I don't have skill ups, and I mean he might stay as a 5-star with Daydream Joker, but for PvP he's gonna be like different artifact, different type of gear, more survival, like less damage, maybe more as a bruiser. But yeah, a lot of experimenting to do. But that's it for this one, guys. Good luck with your golem runs. I'm Astranox. Like, comment, subscribe for more. Press the bell icon for like to be notified whenever I release a new video. And check out my other videos. They should be showing up on the screen now. Gameplay videos of all sorts, arena, guild wars, guides, tips, and how-tos, and Abyss Floor 62+. A lot of good information in there, so check those out if you haven't. And of course, subscribe for more. All right, peace.